And we're going to start off with the election in the United Kingdom because it seems like the least kind of out there, I guess, out of all the stories. The election that happened yesterday in the United Kingdom was a kind of super election because a lot of the things that were supposed to happen in 2020 didn't because of COVID-19, and they were kind of pushed forward to 2021. So we're looking at local and regional elections with over 5,000 seats up for grabs, and a lot of things kind of happening all at the same time. We have the Labour Party, which is meant to be, I guess, like some kind of an opposition to Conservatives in the United Kingdom, but has kind of not done that job at all, really, for a good long time. I'd say since the Tony Blair years, but people have different opinions on it. So we have the Labour Party and its leader, Sir Keir Starmer, who is kind of dependent on the results of this election. We have Nicola Sturgeon, who is the leader of the Scottish National Party in Scotland, who is looking at a strong majority in Parliament through this election. And if she can get that and she can remain First Minister, she will be pushing through a second referendum on independence in Scotland and will probably be successful. This means a lot of changes for Scotland and the United Kingdom. So that's happening as we speak. They're counting the votes right now on all these elections. The parliamentary in Scotland, we're looking at elections in the United Kingdom as well. We're looking at different constituencies. And we're also looking at London, where the people of London are right now, have already, but we're counting the votes. The people of London are going to choose their next mayor, and that's always a load of fun, because a lot of different people stand for mayor, and it's a bit of a Monty Python-esque affair, the elections for mayor. But first, I just want to do a quick overview of what's happening with Keir Starmer. So we have this super election. We have over 5,000 seats within the UK that are kind of up for election. We'll probably have the results tomorrow. Everything's taking a little bit longer to count because of COVID regulations as well. But Keir Starmer, Sir Keir Starmer is the current leader of Labour. And I have obviously a lot of problems with Starmer. If you're not that into kind of intra Labour politics, maybe you're watching from, I don't know, France for one, and if you are, I apologize for the war. But yeah, so Labour kind of ousted Corbyn. He was an uncomfortable, truly leftist candidate. We now have Starmer in charge of Labour. As the name suggests, it's meant to be the party of the working people who do labor. And the kind of new liberal, pro-capitalist, anti-labor, anti-working class mentality within Labour is so strong that Labour decided, once they got rid of Corbyn, they decided, you know what, let's have Sir Keir Starmer in charge of this. This is exactly the kind of candidate we need. This is exactly the kind of guy we need to run the working people's party. A knight of the realm in this outdated, anachronistic, ridiculous system that is the United Kingdom political sphere. Knighted by the Queen, this man, a knight of the Queen, right, who is sworn in allegiance to the Queen, the actual Queen of England, is leading the Labour Party. It really is a little bit like putting a fox in charge of the chickens, isn't it? But, this is the state of British Labour today, and has been for a very, very long time. So, what we already know about this situation with Keir Starmer is that up to this election, Keir Starmer he's not very popular. People are not taking to him. He's not getting a lot of kind of popular feeling. He's not appealing to the people properly, and he's definitely not appealing to the kind of left, the actual left in the Labour Party, and he's not appealing to other left voters. and certainly not to the Corbynite faction. He's kind of failed at everything he's like was supposed to be doing. He's not offering like any kind of opposition to the current government. He's just not really doing anything. And there's this like very big constituency in the United Kingdom. It's big in terms of its significance because the United Kingdom is a small place. But Hartlepool is in question. It's a constituency that has traditionally since the 1970s been a Labour constituency. People always vote Labour there. It's a Labour through and through place. Keir Starmer has been kind of intimating that, you know, he understands, like, I think there's like, he felt the pressure before this election, feeling that he's probably going to lose a lot of people because of his image, and people are probably not going to vote Labour. So Starmer already made some announcements saying, you know, he's going to take it on board. He's going to take responsibility for this election, whatever happens. And he also intimated that, you know, if he loses Hartlepool, Labour loses, but he is the leader of Labour. Starmer intimated that if he loses Hartlepool, he might resign. He might have to take that as a message to, you know, just give up. And I think he should. I'm obviously not from the United Kingdom. I'm not British, or don't identify as British, and I'm not really a member of the Labour Party. I probably wouldn't want to be a member of the Labour Party. I don't really have like a Labour dog in this race in that sense. But I do have like a leftist dog in this race, and I think it's appalling that someone like Keir Starmer, who is a former prosecutor, who is a Knight of the Realm, the fact that he is in charge of Labour is appalling. And it's especially appalling because of the context of United Kingdom politics and the kind of class society that kind of persists in the United Kingdom, especially in England. The working people know about it, like they know it, it's like a known thing. People do, like, there's so much class identity here, and there's so much social inequality. And time again, over the past decades, Labour has let down the people of the United Kingdom, and it has let down the working class, people who are less advantaged, people who don't have access to the kinds of services that, you know, someone who might be a Knight of the Realm would have. And it's exactly the same kind of people also who are meant to be helped. You know, the people of Labour are the kind of working class, disadvantaged working class that is very much fallen prey to the horrible austerity measures put into place by the former Conservative government, but also before then, the new Labour policies of Tony Blair. They've been really let down by Labour in general. And now, like, the fact that it's like someone who used to be a prosecutor who would have been prosecuting a lot of these people, because that's just how new liberal societies work. A lot of people in England who don't have a lot of money end up having problems with the law simply because they're poor, and they don't have the kind of representation in court that they deserve, and Keir Starmer would have been the guy prosecuting them. I mean, this is like the state of the Working People's Party in the United Kingdom today. I don't think it's ever been this bad. At least Tony Blair put on this facade. Like, he put on that mask. He was like, we're going to change Britain. We're going to modernize. It's going to be different. It's going to be amazing. We're going to love each other. Sir Keir Starmer is like, he is the enemy. He is the enemy within. And he symbolizes all the things that are wrong with British society, at least in my opinion. And just to be clear, in terms of my leftism, this is like a personal story, why I feel so strongly and why I want to talk about the state of the United Kingdom left today is because I originally got radicalized in this country precisely because of the kinds of inequalities that happen here, because I experienced it firsthand and I saw it. And I got my university education here. And there was a very strong, incredibly strong, like solid left at the university that I went to. And I have to say, like, I struggle to think of many other places in the world, certainly not in Europe or the European Union, where there is so much inequality and it's so ingrained in the system. And just the idea of this guy being in charge is just so offensive. And I know it's very incredibly offensive to a lot of British people. So there you go. That's the labor situation. I'm not trying to hate on Starmer, because I'm not trying to, like, be holier than thou left and, kind of like saying you can't reform labor. You can reform labor. You can reform labor by putting Corbyn back where he belongs, which is in charge of labor. Because Jeremy Corbyn isn't particularly radical. He's a kind of he's an old school lefty with not particularly radical ideas. A lot of them outdated, and they have a lot of problems with Corbyn too. But I think Starmer is just it's an eyesore. It's an insult to the working people of the United Kingdom. So there you go. I think we'll see what happens. We already have the Hartlepool, because the Hartlepool kind of results are in. We already have like some commentary from Starmer and from Corbyn on this. I haven't been able to look at it because it's kind of happening in real time. But I have a feeling if I make any prediction on this situation, I would say Starmer will not stand down. He kind of said he might, but I don't think he will. I think it's going to be like another kind of power play. I'm not sure who else they might have that would like appease all the people in labor. But it would be, this is just testament to the fact that things need to change radically, and kind of centrism and neoliberal centrism in left or historically left parties around the world, like certainly like in the Western kind of context, this is not working anymore, and no one's interested in that. And it's a tragedy, because the government that's in power right now and its leader, Boris Johnson, this is probably the most corrupt government that Britain has maybe even ever had. It's the most aggressive and anti-people and destructive government that this country probably has ever had. I don't know. I struggle to think of a time when things were worse than this, and I'm including Margaret Thatcher in this. Margaret Thatcher was evil but not corrupt, whereas Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom right now, he is both evil and corrupt, and indeed styling himself on Margaret Thatcher, which is insane. So the other thing that's going to happen is London is going to pick its mayor. Currently, the mayor of London is Sadiq Khan. He is a Labour guy, again. So in theory, in theory, he's not supposed to be conservative. In theory, he's on the left. He is not at all any of those things. He's a centrist neoliberal, which might as well be a conservative. He is one of those interesting kind of false identity politic kind of promise people. He is the first Muslim mayor of London. So, and that's nice. Representation is really important, I think, especially when it comes to diversity and the representation of different, like, not just religions, but just, different people. In the United Kingdom, there's never been enough representation. And Sadiq Khan kind of fulfills that role, which is nice. He's a very personable kind of politician. He's like a nice guy. But at the same time, he is a neoliberal hack and hasn't done a lot for London in terms of actually helping the people of London in a pandemic. Or at least he hasn't really done anything particularly spectacular. He is running against some interesting candidates. There's a conservative candidate that that is like a realistic alternative to Sadiq Khan. They seem to be going head to head, but I think Sadiq Khan will win because people already know him. They're used to him. He's like, you know, the guy next door. Like, he's like, you see like tweets of him doing, you know, kind of fasting, and then like, you know, like doing pictures in the restaurant, like in a nice restaurant for a Ramadan. Like, it's very relatable, you know. And he seems to be like a very kind of homely kind of person. So I think he's probably going to win this one. If he doesn't, we also have other candidates. The great thing about the United Kingdom is that before it was a thing, the United Kingdom had this like big tradition of joke candidates. And there's like a whole joke party. It was founded in 1982. It's called the Monster Raving Loony Party, I believe. It's like a whole thing. And they stand in every election. They're kind of out there. They're always like doing their thing. It's a big tradition. They usually get something like 1% support. But, you know, you never know. So the Monster Raving Loony Party is a thing. It's part of this tradition. They're not standing in the election for mayor, but we have individual independent candidates who are fulfilling this promise and this tradition. We have Count Binface. Count Binface is a charming candidate. If you're listening to this rather than watching, he has like a whole PR thing. I didn't realize this, but apparently he's been around for a long time. He goes back to the Theresa May government, and I think before even too. He's this guy who walks around with kind of dressed like a knight, but like instead of like knightly armor, he's got like an actual bin on his head, and he's calling himself a count, and he is just, you know, charming. He does have some interesting policies that I can actually stand with, that I support. For example, his manifesto says that he would like to put a cap on the price of croissants. He says no shop should be allowed to sell a croissant for more than £1. And I second this. I think that's true. I don't think it should. I'm with this. He's got some other interesting proposals. One that is kind of obvious is London to join the European Union. Again, why not? We also have, I'm trying to find like there's like a whole, like he's got like 24 points to his manifesto, which is like way more clear than a lot of other candidates. But I'm trying to find ones that are a little bit more universally relatable. Trader's Gate to be reopened for business, which I think is in the Tower of London, or near the Tower of London. And the royal family to keep one of Buckingham Palace, Kensington Palace, St. James Palace, and Clarence House, with the rest gifted to the nation to help eradicate homelessness. So Count Binface has some interesting progressive policies. He does wear a bin on his head. He's got this like beautiful cape as well. Unfortunately, he's probably not going to be in charge of London when the vote is counted, but I kind of, part of me wishes he would be. So there's Count Binface. Who else is interesting in this running? There's other candidates who are joke candidates, but unintentionally we have Piers Corbyn. Piers Corbyn is actually Jeremy Corbyn's brother. But he's like that brother that like everyone's embarrassed by. He's a kind of former scientist, gone conspiracy theorist. He's a COVID denier. I think he's a climate change denier. I can't remember now. So just an all-round conspiracy theorist. But I have no hate for him. He has his own thing going on. Britain is all about that eccentric kind of, individualism. So, but I think it's just a little bit funny how these, we're all connected in this weird way, and it's just a weird story about the Corbyn clan. And it doesn't take away from Jeremy Corbyn. It doesn't take away from what he stands for, and it doesn't take away from his integrity at all. But yeah, this is the level we're at in Britain right now. Well. Actually, let me interrupt myself there for a second. I just saw something on the Corbyn versus Starmer situation. Corbyn just got asked in an interview on the Hartlepool loss whether he agrees that the theory out there is that Labour is losing everywhere in the United Kingdom because of Corbyn. Like, this is insane. The mainstream media are trying to blame Corbyn for Keir Starmer's loss in Hartlepool this time around. This is like the constant kind of like the constant narrative. And actually the interviewer said to him, do you think it's because of your legacy and the legacy of Tony Blair and that like you and Blair wrecked Labour? Like, you could not think of two more opposite leaders. One has nothing to do with the other. Blair left British politics in like 2007. What I can't, like, the hatred for Corbyn is so strong and so over the top. Like, they will blame her for whatever happens in and outside of Labour. No, this is clearly the fact that Labour is doing so badly is clearly an indication that maybe it's time to get Corbyn back on track and back in the driving seat. Because there's the alternatives that are being offered to Corbyn are so poor that even Hartlepool didn't vote the correct way, quote unquote. Sorry, I just had to like weave that in because I just find it appalling. I find it so appalling that they always do this. It's like Corbyn is like they want to make it about Corbyn, like this clear lack of connection with the actual real people of the United Kingdom. Now it's like Corbyn's fault again. It's not. It's a sign that Corbyn was probably a better person for the job. Just to be clear, this was a Channel 4 News interview that Corbyn gave, and the questions are ridiculous. It's just so like tragically kind of like on it. Like, the Corbyn bashing is incredible, and they never bash him for the right stuff because he's not a saint. And I'm not a JC follower or anything like that, or a Corbynista, but I think Corbyn is the only way. There's really no alternative.